Welcome back to Faith Pays, where I'm your host, Faith, and I'm here to help you to elevate your life through practical and spiritual tips. Today's video, we are going to be talking about, is marriage really worth it, right? Because in today's society, we live in a world where a marriage is no longer respected. A marriage between a woman and a man is just no longer respected. Literally, you can have a marriage for anyone nowadays. If I want to get married to my dog, I can get married to my dog. If I want to get married to my best friend, I can get married to my best friend. It literally has lost its meaning. We'll go over some questions that we were asked about marriage, and we'll have this candid discussion about, our marriage, marriages that we, have experienced, and hopefully we can inspire you and give you hope that marriage truly is worth it. So without further ado, I want to bring a special guest today into the video, because it's one thing to hear it from my mouth as a wife, but it's another thing to hear it from the man's perspective, which is the husband man. So we're gonna start off a little basic, because we're not gonna just dive right in. Yeah, we're not gonna just dive right in. But the question is, first of all, who are you and how long have we been married?
Yeah, I'm a father. I'm a husband of 9 years. We're business owners, we're entrepreneurs, and we love the kingdom. We love God. That's who we are, and that's who I am.
All right, so just to get it right, you're not just a husband. You are an employee as well as an employer.
Yeah.
And you also are a father.
Yeah.
That's important, because I think a lot of people can kind of disassociate themselves if they feel like you're just a father or you're just a husband and you don't have responsibilities of a kid, you don't have responsibilities of a whole entire business, and like if you're not employed, so it's important for us to go through those things so they can kind of connect and realize that you also play multiple, or you also wear multiple hats. Exactly. Absolutely. All right, cool. So that was an easy one. That's an easy question, right? The next question is, we often hear marriage described as a lot of work, as if that's the only way to describe it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I would say anything worth having, anything that is good, is going to be a lot of work. It should be a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
You think about having a baby or having a child together. There's 9 months of intense, pregnancy, or even when you go to the day of labor, it's worth something. It has to be a lot. I think about your job, your first degree, in any capacity of where it's going to give you something strong back in return, has to be a lot of work. So yeah, marriage is a lot of work. I won't lie about it. You're bringing two different people, two different personalities, two different goals, two different perspectives, two different upbringings on life.
Right.
For me, you and I grew up in a very Haitian culture, right? Completely different from the traditional American culture.
Right.
So that is going to be a lot of work when you're trying to have two individual personalities merge into one.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's just a little differently, right? Because I think, again, people see that I think people are giving marriage a disservice, honestly, because when they say that marriage is a lot of work, I think that's the only thing that people think about. And I say it all the time, like, once you say like I can't, it's too much work, your brain shuts down.
Yeah, fair.
So it's like marriage is a lot of work, and then so when those trials come, or when you have those hard times in marriage, you automatically like, dang man, should I have done this? Like, I don't even know if I should have gotten married, because it's like, it's a lot of work. And then if that's the only way that people describe it, then where's the fun part? Where is the love part? Where is the easy part? Like, where's the exciting part?
Yeah.
So I think, just describing marriage as a lot of work, it gives marriage a disservice. And
you have to come to the understanding that there's a mental hurdle that you have to overcome.
Right.
And the first thing is like Alcoholics Anonymous. First thing is admitting. Hey, this marriage.
Admitting that it's hard.
This marriage will be something. This marriage will be a lot. This marriage will be work. Okay, now we got over that mental hurdle. How do we really get to the meat and potatoes of everything?
Right.
Is by saying, okay, we understand the work is going to be there, but we have the energy, the effort, and the commitment to see through the work.
But like, what do you say to those new people that are just looking to get married? You have some people that won't even get married because they're like, okay, if this is gonna work, I don't want to get married. Like I'm better single. I think Paul talks about that. Paul talks about that where he's like, listen, some men are better off being single because when you get married, it is work. So what do you say about those new people that's looking to get married?
Everyone has a specific purpose here on life. When the Apostle Paul referenced that statement, he meant it in a sense of his primary mission as an apostle was to do the work and will of God.
Right.
Everything else couldn't marry each other. He could not be a husband, a father, and still do the kingdom work, establishing the church, going on and venturing on and doing other things.
Right.
So what we have, and through the resurrection of Jesus, we have that privilege now and honor that we don't necessarily have to just be as rigid as the Apostle Paul. Okay. The church has been built on Peter, and then now we get to like bask in the glory of it and say, okay, we can manage multiple hats, do it together. And I think marriage is a union and a covenant to God. So this is another way of expanding.
Okay. So to the new couple that's looking to get married, what would you tell them, to help them to get past that marriage is work thought? Like, how do they get past that?
That it's one thing that you can't put a math equation on, which is love. I love you. I want you to know that. Yes. I love you. So that love is going to allow me to go past the work, right? And that would be the question to those individuals. Have you found someone that you truly love? Because love cures everything. Love will mask everything. And then the work doesn't seem as hard.
Okay. I can see why you would say that. I can see. So basically, listen, even if it does get hard, that love should be able to supersede what is going on.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So a funny thing, the reason why I say that is because when we were just meeting each other,
right?
You're in 9th grade, I was in 10th grade,
right?
And I would say it was a divine intervention. I would say it was the Holy Spirit. I seen you and I said that this woman's going to make me a millionaire.
Right.
I don't know if that was my own thought. I didn't even know what a millionaire was. I had $50 Reeboks on for the whole school year, so I didn't know. I couldn't see that pass through that, right? But it was that imprint, that impression that you made, or the Holy Spirit made through to me,
right,
that made me say, okay, this woman has something that I need. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm going to pursue it, and that converted into love. Yeah, I said it.
Okay.
Love.
Okay. I agree with you because I was like, yeah, no, I don't have time for this. Like, I'm in 9th grade. Like, I don't have time for this. Like, I have school and track and basketball, and that's it. But okay, so love supersedes everything.
Absolutely.
But the bottom line is marriage is work.
It is.
However, that love should be able to get you through.
Absolutely.
All right, got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So the next question that we got was, did we ask the big important questions about religion, parenting, or finances prior to getting married?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And if we did, we touched on it like, hey, you want breakfast or you want lunch? You know?
We did not.
We didn't touch it.
We did not. I think even the religion part, like, it was assumed.
It was assumed.
It was never like sit down and what do you believe? What do I believe? I think we both, kind of got it from each other that we believe in God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, and we're like, okay.
I didn't know who Jesus was back then. I knew concepts of it, right?
Right.
And I followed you to church because I was sitting in my bed watching Joel Osteen and T.D. Jakes, but I didn't practice religion. I didn't practice my faith. I didn't practice a relationship with Jesus. It was assumed through you. And I thank God for that, know. But no, we did not ask those major questions. And we suffered for it. There was a long point in our marriage where I did things and I did it off of myself and I governed myself as I wanted to. And your silence was acceptance in that point, right? And even if she tried, and fellas, we get a little hard-headed. Even if she tried to say something, I wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
So had we took a step back, had we said that, okay, we want to be married,
right? Had
we, truly, covered those topics, we probably would have got to the eventual point, which is this. We shouldn't be married, or we shouldn't get married.
Yeah.
but because we didn't,
Yeah.
and thank God, he was still able to see us through and see
Right.
the long-term perspective. But no, we didn't.
Yeah, and I think it's important because I think a lot of people, again, like you said before, there's no formula, there's no science to, I have to have this in line for the marriage to work.
Yeah.
And for us, we did not ask those big questions before we got married. And for me as a woman, I think nowadays, even with culture, they're like, well, what's his credit score? How much money he got in the bank? What can he do for me? I didn't look at that. The funny thing is, I had an idea you had money because, you were doing pretty well for yourself at the time. And I'm just like, okay, judging by, the way he carried himself, his plays, things like that, he gotta have something, right? So it was just assumed on my part. And I'm not that big into finances anyway. Like, I'm not just gonna marry you just for money. So I think for me, it was just like, I assumed like he must be okay. But like what I didn't consider is, okay, yes, he's well off, but how does he manage his money? Does he budget? Does he care about credit? Like, those questions were never asked. And sure enough, when you're married, you find out pretty quickly
out the window.
How how, like, what are your viewpoints of money? So your viewpoints were a little different than mine initially.
A little?
They were a lot different.
Nice.
Well, they were a lot different from mine initially, and I think it's just from upbringing. Like for him, he just when your parent says money don't grow on trees, for him he just thought money grew on trees. Like, he didn't budget. He just thought, hey, listen, I'm gonna spend it. It is what it is. Money will still come. It's whatever. It was like a free for all type thing. And me, I was more frugal. I'm just like, we can't spend this because we gotta wait until the next time.
The psychology behind my perspective was, I grew up, I didn't have anything.
Right.
I had a hourly wage job at this place, and I suffered. I didn't have my own room. I didn't have my own place. I couldn't eat my own meals.
Right.
So the result of that was, now that you're in a position where you have something,
right,
you're gonna splurge out for all the years you didn't have anything. So there was and unfortunately you were the victim of it. There was a growth that still I had to go through.
Yeah.
And there was a deficiency in a niche in my armor.
Yeah.
That you were not able to see its full capacity of, meaning that. Because I was splurging, because I didn't have any respect for money, because I didn't have respect for credit, and because I was in a place where it was paying me consistently, I had no proper management of those same things, and it really pushed us back a lot in life. It really did.
Yeah, it really did. But again, I think it goes back to the question before is, as long as you love someone, you're willing to like deal with it.
Or you love me.
No matter, no matter how hard it is, no matter how, bleak it looks. And I think for women, it's so important to believe in the mission, because even when it does look bleak, even when we're down to the last $2, and we don't know how we're going to eat, and you're like, man, you still have to trust and believe that God has placed this man in your life for a reason, and that he is the man that God chose for you. So for me, it was just like, regardless of where we are, when you take those marriage vows, it says through sickness and health, through rich and for poor. I think, God says you have what you say in those vows. Maybe I should have said for richer, for richer.
riches.
For richer, for richer, instead of for richer, for poorer.
Absolutely.
Jeez. But God has continually seen us through. And that's just, even with our working together, like even when we were at a space where we literally was at rock bottom. And
rock bottom.
Yeah, I don't even know what's past rock bottom, but we were rock bottom.
It hurt.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing was us just banding together and working together and building our way back up.
Yeah, and that's why this moment that we're sharing is such a pivotal moment, because we're unveiling the cover here, and we're telling you that it's easy to just post the pictures and say that, hey, life is good, right?
Right.
And you automatically assume it, right? But what you don't see is the pain, the heartbreak, the trauma that's associated with being unequipped. And unfortunately, you know, when you decide to get married, depending on the structure of that person's upbringing, they may not be equipped. And I wasn't.
Yeah. So that is good, because a man not being equipped, it affects the entire family. Like, oh my goodness, because the man is the under shepherd, and you know, the man is the priest of the house. And if you're not equipped, or if you're not governed by God, then who is governing you?
Self-governed.
Exactly. Like, you're self-governed. So if you're self-governed, then the whole household is self-governed, and it just affects everyone. It affects, you know, me, it affects the kids, and it's just so important to be equipped.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what about the new people that want to get married, or people that just got married and they find themselves in a situation where the man is not equipped?
Yeah. Bringing out the loaded. I thought that was start out. All right.
I mean, it's
man,
serious.
I think that's such a good question. What do you do if you find yourself with a man who is not equipped?
Yeah.
And I would say, and I truly mean this, is that unfortunately you have to allow the process to go through its process. And you got to understand that, you know, the concept of which you guys got together, maybe it was just based off sex, or maybe it was just based off we had a baby, or maybe it was just based off I don't want to be lonely. But you have to deal with the consequences of your decision.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
And if he's not equipped, you have a pivotal role to play.
Yeah.
You have a role to continue to be the God-fearing woman that you are. Because remember, you religiously went to church.
Yeah.
And I saw that. You know, I saw that from afar. Even though I would never say anything, because men are not going to communicate that.
Yeah.
But we're watching you just as you're watching us.
Right.
And that diligence and that discipline forced me to change my perspective.
Yeah.
And say, okay, let me just go with her. Maybe just one time, you know? And there's going to be very pivotal moments in his life, and it's going to be through his work, or it's going to be through his health. It's going to be through very instrumental moments in his life where he's going to have that mirror in front of him, where he's going to have to really ask himself the question, do I respect what I give out? Am I consistent with what I portray? Can I look at myself in the mirror and God says, well done? And when those questions, those real questions, you will never see those questions. You will never see them. Because we're going to be on the game. We're going to be eating. We're going to want to have some intercourse. And you will never see those moments.
Yeah.
But those moments happen in very private spaces. It happens in the car. Brother, I see you. You're in the car asking yourself those questions right now. It's going to be in the shower. It's going to be when the bank account is only $20 and you be like, it's all right.
Yeah.
And then that moment is the moment of self-reflection. That moment is where your consistency is going to mean something.
Right.
And in that moment, he's going to have a choice whether to continue to stay ignorant or to say, Lord, I need help.
Yeah.
And that was a very pivotal moment for us in 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
2018, I remember just going to the altar and I said, Lord, I just don't know what I am going to do in my life.
Humbling yourself. I
humbled myself. I think that's a major component.
God says if people will turn away from their wicked ways and humble themselves, then he will heal the land. And that's something that you did.
Good. Yeah, and it was through the humbling, and it was through the saying, Lord, I don't want to self-govern myself anymore.
Right.
I want to be governed by you.
Right.
It's that when, and it says it too, seek ye first the kingdom and its righteousness, and that plays a pivotal part.
Right.
All these things will be added unto you. And that's where the proverbial onion starts to unfold, because now you find yourself on a journey like no other, and God can say, hey, I knew you were going to be this. And that's the thing, women, you got to understand. God will produce what he wants out of his seed. He does not need your help. However, you play a pivotal role. God is the superpower to the man, but you are the secret weapon. So you got to keep that concept. And that's where you'll find a man becomes equipped as he's taking those steps.
Right. And that's good. Just knowing that we just got to deal with the process. Like, we got to go through the process. Like, and 2018, we've been married. That was 3 years into the marriage, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, what is going on? We could have quit at year 1, year 2, year 3, but not until you humble yourself. And for me, I didn't even know what you went up there for. Like, I didn't even know, your conversation with the Lord,
Help me, Lord.
I didn't know. So that's really good, because I think as women, we get in a relationship with these men that are not equipped. And we're like, man, did I make a mistake? Like, God, you sure this my husband? Like, and for you, when you said we just have to trust the process, and not even trust the process, trust that God knows what he's doing. I think that's important. So just continue being ourselves too. I think a lot of the times, us as women, we try to drop little hints, like, you going to church today? Or like, what you doing? Like, just subliminal messages and things like that. And like, we don't have to do that. We just continue being ourselves. Absolutely. And, the glory that's on us will start, Absolutely. Influencing you. Absolutely. To where you become curious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. So the next question is, how do you get past resentment? Or maybe I should ask myself that.
Well, I have a perspective
okay.
On resentment. And what is resentment? That would be my first question. When you say resentment, what do you mean by it?
Well, you're like, you can't stand the person. Like,
I figured that's what you're saying. But
yeah, like you're mad at them for, most of the time, it's just not understanding your perspective, or not taking your perspective as seriously as you take it. And I feel like I'm speaking from experience. So
let's talk about your experience. Yeah. Let's back up, then.
Yeah, because that it was a time that I resented you because, again, yeah. There were just times where I just felt like you didn't understand my perspective. Like, you traveled a lot for work, and us having a newborn baby, and then you're like out traveling and things like that. And it's like, you're coming home and you're just like, hey, and I'm like tired. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, here's a baby. You can have her. And then it's like, boom, you're gone again.
It's like that.
Exactly. So, and then when I'm bringing my concerns to you, it was just like, oh, toughen up, or you can do it, or, I just felt like you didn't take it as seriously as, I wanted you to take it. Yeah. So, of course, at that point, that created like a level of resentment, like, dang, okay, what am I here for? Or like, I'm not in this marriage to be a single mom. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ever heard of like women being married, but they're single mothers, in the marriage because the man is not really there? Yeah. Not saying that you weren't there. It's just that because of your work, like, you work 24/7 and then you traveled a lot. So for me, it was just like I started to resent you, honestly. But you know this already.
Yeah, you've been very vocal and very clear. And I want to grab you by the hand, and I want to tell you to everyone, and men, take notes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry because being unequipped,
right?
Not seeing a true display of what a husband should be,
right?
Growing myself, having mixed priorities. I thought just bringing home the bacon was enough. That's what they told me on Instagram. That's what they told me. That's what they told me on Facebook. They said a man bring home the bacon, and that's the true. That was period.
The crazy thing is, you brought home a lot of bacon.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like the money. Like, money means nothing to us as women. Yeah. Well, again, you have a certain type of women that love the money because they want bags, like material things.
But they still have the emotion.
Exactly. Yeah. So for us, it's like, listen, money doesn't mean nothing when we're home. We're, raising the kids by ourselves. Like, that stuff is a lot of work.
Yeah. And I was still living my life.
Still living your life.
So
going out with your friends.
I was going out with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I was still drinking. Well, maybe not that late in my career, but early on in our relationship, I was still smoking.
Yeah.
Later in the career, I was still drinking.
Yeah.
And I was still hanging out with my friends, and you had to put your life on the back burner.
Exactly.
And I never took that into consideration.
Right.
Because I brought home the bacon. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that resentment is a valid response, and it's okay to resent him. It's okay to be frustrated. But the worst thing you can do is suffer in silence. That's when the devil truly has a stronghold over you because
Yeah.
he knows that this is what hurts.
Right.
And he's going to use that hurt to continue to penetrate through what you, and regardless of what actions the man is doing to make better improvements to what you're saying, because he will try.
You're not gonna see it.
You're not gonna see everything, but if you're looking at the glass and only seeing negativity,
right,
what you think you're gonna get? Negativity.
Yeah.
So the resentment was real, and my answer to your question, and how do you get past resentment, is through one, accepting the person is flawed.
Yeah.
One, you accept the person is flawed, but don't suffer in silence, and actually have a conversation. But before you have the conversation, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And I think that every woman needs to kind of follow this playbook. The playbook, and you can kind of refer that back to the book of Esther. And I think when you read the book of Esther and you see how she managed the relationship with her husband, King Xerxes, she had a request. She had a formal request. Yeah. And it was a big request.
A big one, yeah.
So she had to, just to kind of give you a short summary, she had to request that the king change his decree, that when a king has to change his decree, you already know how big that is.
Right.
And stop the annihilation of the Jewish people.
Right.
So Esther could have just went straight up, say, hey, king, husband, you my husband, you better do this for me.
Right.
But she did not just go out there. And women today, when you feel resentment or you have frustration, please just do not go out there and just tell them you basically don't need them.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing.
Yeah.
So high level concepts, just really quickly, what did Queen Esther do? And I think that this is an encouragement to all the women. Write down the concept of it. What did she do? She got people around her, kingdom people around her, to say, hey, let's fast.
Yeah.
Before I even address it. She got with someone else to stay connected. Not your homegirl who's not seeing it. Not a single woman who just can't see the perspective, doesn't know the value, doesn't understand the intricacies of marriage. I want to say the value, but doesn't understand the intricacies of marriage.
Yeah.
And then have some spiritual leadership around that to really help and guide you and govern you.
Yeah.
Secondly, what she did, she fasted. And she said, hey, we need to fast for 3 days. And then what we're doing in that fast, we're going to take ourselves out of the equation, and we're going to ask God for the right words to say.
Right.
And I think that's very important when you're addressing a king, especially the king of the house, right?
Yeah, he is the king of the house.
So, one, surround yourself around kingdom women, or married women who believes in God, because that's really important.
Right.
Secondly, fast and ask the Lord for the words and the wisdom on what to say.
Right.
And then last, dress it up a little bit. Get your hair done. Make a little meal. Say, I got a request. Let it known, okay? But don't make your request known immediately.
Right.
After you had a nice date night, you guys had a good time, do it again, ladies. Be strategic. Be tactful.
Yeah.
So do it again. Hey, let's have another good time. Let the man put his guard down. Because immediately, if you're coming to him with any hesitation or anything he needs to do, trust me, we don't hurt it all day at work. We're going to hurt it all day in life. The role of a male, especially a black male, is diminished. So you got to understand the psychological abuse that we go through daily. But what I love about Esther is on that last day, she said, if it's in your favor, and if it's pleasing to you, consider this. And I think if every woman would take that playbook, one, surround themselves around godly women. Two, fast and ask the Lord for the words to say. And then three, make sure it's not about you immediately.
Right.
Put him into consideration.
Yeah. And
then make your request known. I think you'll see a much better response to the resentment, and him take quicker, actionable steps together.
All right. I don't have anything else to say after that. But the next question is, have you ever lost yourself within a marriage? If yes, why? How did you resolve it? So I think for me, I've definitely lost myself in a marriage. In this marriage, I mean, can't say in a marriage. I've only been married once, but in this marriage, definitely lost myself. I think it just started from just your job, like corporately, because even just going to like corporate events, you know, I was just a Joni's wife. A Joni's wife. Like, I didn't have a name. Like, it was a Joni's wife, a Joni's wife. Oh my gosh, it's a Joni's wife. Like, you know, so that started it. So it started with your job, and I just became a Joni's wife. And then we had our first child. And I became Johnny's wife, and then I became a mother, right? So then, after that is just, that went on for years. So of course I'm trying to be Johnny's wife. I'm trying to be a mother. My life has already been put in the back burner. So literally I took on all these other roles, but I forgot my identity. So that was going on for years, to the point where, like, I didn't even know what my favorite color was. Like, I couldn't even tell you what I love to eat, because I'm making sure the kid eats, making sure Alana eats, so it was, again, where it was going on for years. And like you said, doing your hair, looking nice, dressing nice, like, I would just do the bare minimum, because I was just trying to conserve energy at this point, because I needed to conserve the energy to make sure that, we had a meal, or making sure that our child was good, because again, you're traveling with work and stuff, a lot of it fell on me. So of course I had to put myself on the back burner. So, I mean, not until I would say like the last few years that I find myself again. And that was honestly like through therapy, like going through therapy and having that objective voice helping me to find who I am again, because I had lost myself so much through the marriage, through your life. I think the marriage kind of surrounded around your life. So to the point where my life didn't exist. Not only did my life exist, I didn't even have a name. Johnny's wife. So it was literally, I mean, again, and I think that's why even me finishing my degree, I'm like, listen, I gotta have something that is to my name. I gotta have something that I have accomplished, because I can't, have everything surrounded around you that, like, what if we separate one day? I have nothing to show for it. And that's the mindset that I had, So yes, I have lost myself, but I've also found myself again, to where I feel like I'm a better woman now that I know myself than before. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I also would give, credit and credence to you giving your life to Christ in 2020. Because you lost yourself, but you lost a perspective that you no longer carried, right? You were trying to bring your identity into a marriage where it's conjoined with two. Right. You can't be, I'm going to keep my identity and want to be married. It just doesn't work like that, right? Yeah. Because when we come together as one, we literally are shedding past our personal identity of where we were before. Yeah. So for you lost yourself, but me, I didn't give myself up, right? And I think it has to be a fine balance of the man, when he gets married, he has to give himself up. And then when the woman comes, she has to give herself up. So when you guys can kind of form that one true identity.
Exactly. So I lost myself and you kept yourself.
I kept myself. And that's how you lose yourself, right? Because
exactly. But that's generally how, how it goes with a lot of marriages nowadays, where the man keeps himself. The man continues doing what he was doing, as a single man, married. He's still going out with his friends. He's still, doing what he's doing, while the woman gives up so much of herself. So not until I gave my life to Christ, where I'm like, okay, it's not even just me at this point. I'm submitting myself to Christ, and you submitted yourself to God. Till now you're submitted to God, and now I'm able to submit to you.
Exactly.
And then that's when we really start operating as one.
Yeah, because when you gave your life to Christ, in my head, I divorced you then. I divorced you prior to you getting, because through your resentment, you said that, hey, basically, I don't need you. Yeah. I don't need you, bro.
I mean, as a black woman, that's literally how we're raised. So, that's the thing.
Yeah, you just literally. Yeah. And men feel it. Men can see it, through, when you try to hold each other's hand, or you guys are trying to be intimate, men can feel the resentment. Ladies, we can feel it.
Yeah.
So when you gave yourself to Christ, and prior to that, me giving myself to Christ, because those two have to be true. I have to give myself up so I can appreciate. And in 2020, we were going through that whole mess, selling the house, living with your mom. That was a very trying time for us, right? And in my head, I divorced you already. I was living a single life. Yeah. In my head. So the reason why I say that is because what we should have done, and what we should have done when we got married, is saying, okay, we're going to lose our identity,
Right.
even though we have roles that we're holding, whether it's in work or other places. What is our identity now?
Right.
And I think once we gave our life to Christ, and that's the key, which is, men, when you get married, you have to give up your personal identity and take on God's identity in marriage.
Exactly.
And then same thing goes parallel to the woman. Hey, you have to give up your identity and take on God's identity.
Yeah.
That's when you really, and now through therapy, through healing from that, you're able to really see your true identity. What God really had for you.
Yeah.
God really wants you.
Right.
And boy, it is.
Thank you. Period.
Yeah.
But it's good because, again, I think people forget that a marriage is like when they say a 3-stranded cord. It's you, me, and God. It's not just you and me. So the two become one. That means we're now married to God. So if we're trying to keep our identity, and God is like, no, you take on my identity. So I think that's a problem as well. So again, what do God has for us? We're so busy trying to keep our identity. You try to keep your identity, and it's like, no, we both wrong. Like it's the identity of Christ that we should be taking on. So that's good. That's good. I just had to add that little tidbit in here. So our next question is, what healthy patterns and steps did we create for a blossoming marriage? Well, first of all, we thank you for thinking that our marriage is blossoming. That's a compliment. We thank you for that question. But what healthy patterns? I can give one. Can I go first?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think the biggest thing for us is praying together. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing. And not just us, we pray the kids as well. So just having that collective unit helps us. And then like communication, like our communication is like open. Like you could say one thing to me and I could tell if you're lying or telling the truth. Yeah. Like we're that close that it's like, and our communication is so solid that we can kind of tell what we're thinking. Like I can tell what you're thinking, you can tell what I'm thinking, and without me even saying anything. And I think that has helped our marriage a lot too. So prayer, open lines of communication, and just knowing our roles. Yeah. That's something that I did not understand before, because for you, I mean, I always chalked it up like to you being like this corporate person and like always in corporate mode. And, you know, I was always like, I don't work for you. Like, I don't work for you. Like, you know your role. I don't work for you. You know, like, I feel like I'm one of the employees. Like, I don't work for you. Like, you're telling me know my role. But as I matured, as I got older, as I started to, you know, submit myself, you know, to the man that God has placed in my life, then I understood what roles meant. Yeah. And it's not like on social media, you'd be like, oh, it's 50-50, or, you know, she cooks and cleans and he brings, no, it's not that. It is knowing, okay, what is it that you bring to the marriage and that I need, or what do I bring that you need, and vice versa. What do you have that I need that we can make this both work? This is a team effort. Absolutely. So those are mine. Yeah. What are yours?
I mean, you nailed it. I really can't say anything else after that. No, you're absolutely right. You know, what healthy patterns did we implement? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
for a blossoming marriage.
For a blossoming marriage. I don't even think we've touched the pinnacle of our marriage.
We haven't.
Yet,
yeah.
You know, because we're still, because of our self-identity and trying to just do things our way. Right. I think now we're really starting to see the fruits of our labor.
Right. For sure.
So while I appreciate it, I don't think we've scratched the surface. You know? Because we're still in business together. We're still in corporate roles together. We're still raising our kids together. And sometimes we put ourselves in the background, which is unfortunate.
We have, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that what we get to do now, because we've put in the groundwork and we laid the groundwork, is now we can really start putting things into practice. Yeah. Right? But in the general context is exactly what you said, which is God is our superpower. Yes. You are my secret weapon. I'm your secret weapon. Yes. And we have to continue to pray, because when we come together and pray, we're breaking down, you know, strongholds. Yeah. And then also make sure that we're continuing to grow in our faith. Yeah. So it's important that we not only pray together, but we go to church together and we study together and we challenge each other's perspectives and thoughts and rationale. Right. And do it in a place do it in a safe space. And that's one thing I can always give you. Yeah. Even to when we first started dating, I could always be 100% real with you.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't like it, even though you didn't accept it. I remember early when I said, hey, I used to go to a strip club. And you never agreed with it. You never consigned with it. But you never said you are a loser or you are this and you are that. You said,
but I did pray for you every day.
And I appreciate you praying. But because people don't get to see that, you know? People don't get to see where I was smoking weed after work.
Right.
Not recently, guys. This was in 2012. But they didn't see me smoking weed. And it didn't take to the point where you were being you.
Yeah.
You came to me and you told me the truth. And you said, why are you smoking? And it blew my high. And weed smokers, y'all know, when your high blow, you start to think. And so there was always a level of transparency between you and I. And even in my worst place, even in my hardest moments, you were still there to be that extra helping hand. Yeah. And I think it's very important for that, to show that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So those are the healthy patterns.
Yeah.
Transparency, keeping God first.
Yeah.
And then getting through the ugly stuff.
Yeah, working together. Knowing your roles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the last question is, would you have gotten married sooner or later in life?
Yeah. I think God is intentional. Because of the way I grew up, where I never seen a true father figure.
Yeah.
I didn't have my mom. I never seen a healthy marriage. I didn't know what resources were.
Right.
I didn't have, a formal good education. I just got by. I never took it seriously. And I had money. I was making great. I was making six figures at a very young age, but I didn't know how to manage it.
Right.
And I just think that if you didn't come into my life when you came in my life, I don't think I would be here to this very day to be able to speak to you guys. So
that is God's timing. What about if you had a choice about the timing? What would you have done?
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now.
Knowing what I know now, I can't answer that question, because I would say that when I look at my life, my current life, everything happened for a reason. And you came in right at that pivotal moment.
Right.
So to say I would have and I wouldn't have is kind of, it's not a fair question to ask, because God, if you truly believe in God and you made that decision with the best information that you had, which is, hey, I'm going to get married now. You're in a marriage right now. You're not sure. And let's say it ends in divorce. It's not a bad decision. So it's okay, because you made the best decision with the information you have. Right. But if you're saying that, hey, I'm in a marriage and the guy is trying, he's not the best, but he's trying. Yeah. It may be that you are there for him. Yeah. For that very moment.
That's good. I don't think we think about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were in my life for that very reason, even though it went through very roller coaster moments, highs and lows, peaks and valleys, trauma, a lot of trauma till this day. But I think that if you weren't in my life, I would not be the man who I am today. Yeah. So would I have gotten married sooner or later? I can't answer that question. But what I will say is that I'm happily married now.
Right.
And that's the answer.
Happily married now.
Now.
Yeah. And let's get it right. We've been together 12 years.
12 years, yeah.
Married 9 years. Yeah. I don't know. I think for me, I can agree with you as far as, because everything happened at its right timing, and I wouldn't change that for the world. Yeah. But I don't know. Honestly, I think I would have got married later in life, just for me, because, remember, we got married. I didn't experience much of life before we got married. So for me, I didn't have those times where I'm hanging out with my friends, the single life. Yeah. I went literally from school, going down, playing sports where everything was decided for me. My coaches, you had those counselors, you had nutritionists, everyone made choices for me as an athlete. So with me transitioning from being an athlete, when everyone made decisions for me, and then now, going into a relationship and then into a marriage, I didn't have that adulthood. So I think for me, I would at least experience adulthood, single adulthood first before getting married, and then, deciding to get married after that. So, that's just my experience, because obviously for you, it was different because you've been living on your own since 16. And for me, it's, I was a total opposite. I was literally dependent on everyone else, my coaches, nutritionists, guidance counselors, strength training coaches. Like, I depended on everyone else to make decisions for me till when I became an adult. It's like, well, dang, now I got to make decisions for myself. I didn't have that time. I went right into being married. So I think for me, I would have got married later, just so I can experience what adulthood really is. So I don't have to come into the marriage and trying to figure out how to run a household, how to raise a child, how to have a job and a child and a husband at the same time. Like, all those things I had to learn as I went in the marriage. And I think, it was great. But I think some of the heartache or something that I experienced early on, I think maybe I could have avoided it.
Yeah, and I think that, having good infrastructure like marriage counseling would have exposed all of that, right?
Exactly.
So if you have a good, and it doesn't have to be your church, right? But it has to be practical, it has to be spiritual, it has to have processes, it has to have documentations to show the process. It has to be like anything you have to spend money on something like that, because you are literally bringing two different people together. Yeah. And I think if we went to counseling, you probably would have been like, oh, heck no, I ain't gonna marry this guy. Instead of just the merits of the aesthetics, which is, hey, I think he's got it. You figure it out.
I think he got it figured out. It's crazy.
And then also to myself too, if I went through marriage counseling, I would have probably came to the realization. And I want to challenge the fellas, if you hear this, that you should be able to separate, running yourself or governing yourself, and say, hey, I need to take this seriously. I need to take marriage counseling seriously. Because sometimes we just see it as, okay, I'm going to go through this so I can get the pants, And we got to really separate and be intentional and say that, hey, I really want to go through this marriage counseling so I can know if this is the right fit for me right now, And the answer for me would have been, no, I'm not ready. For me, I'm not ready.
Yeah, not ready. Definitely agree. So to sum it all up, the question of the hour is marriage truly worth it?
Yeah. Is marriage truly worth it? I would believe it is worth it, because you get to do life together. Right. And life is not perfect, but it is great. Worth it. And it's worth it. Yeah. And then the most important piece is which you guys get to grow spiritually together. Yeah. It's great to see how spiritually grown you became, and vice versa, how much I have grown in this process. So is it worth it? Absolutely, because you get to have life moments together, and then when the Lord comes back and read over your life, you can say that, hey, I did it with someone. Right.
Awesome. Well, I definitely agree. Marriage is definitely worth it. So anyone out there, we just want to say that marriage is worth it. Despite what you see in culture, despite what you see on social media, despite the divorces that are running rapid in our society right now, we're here to tell you that marriage is definitely worth it. And if God has placed on your heart, you're together and you have not done just that last step of actually making it official, make it official. What are you waiting for? You're never going to have all the answers. You're never going to have all the steps. And we literally have sat here and told you, we've been together for 12 years. And the beginning years, the middle years, like, we've learned so much in 12 years being together. And it makes it all worth it. It wasn't easy. It definitely was not easy. But we made it. And we continue to grow. Our relationship continues to grow. We continue to grow individually. And we've accomplished so much because we decided to stick it out, because we decided to persevere. So we're just here to encourage you today, here to inspire you, and here to answer that one question for you: is marriage worth it? And collectively, we would say yes. So thank you so much for watching. Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, have an amazing week. Bye.